So, welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Paul. I'm joined here today by Callum. We're going to talk about the results last night. Everton 3, Burnley 1. A second home win of the season. A second come from behind victory under Rafa Benitez. Another 3 points on the board that keeps up Everton's strong start to the campaign. There was a lot to talk about. We from an exhilarating couple of minutes when Everton scored 3 goals to a bit of a controversial refereeing performance to certain players having really good games and certain tactics during the game working a treat and certain tactics not working at all. So there's a lot to basically get our teeth into and talk about. So I'll get into it very slowly, but just before I do, Callum, mate, you okay?
Yeah, Paul, are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, mate. I mean, my voice is a bit hoarse from last night. I lost it from that couple of minutes when the 3 goals went in. But I was there at the Lower Gladders. You've just confirmed for me you were watching it on the TV. I believe it was on the Monday Night Football. So we've got 2 different perspectives of the game. So we'll start at the beginning, basically. What did you think of the starting lineup that Rafa Benitez named?
I was a bit confused by it. 3 at the back. I kind of understood that it was to stop the aerial threat of Burnley, to stop them hooving the ball into someone like Chris Wood, even though I don't think it particularly stopped them. I think the point of it was to try dominating midfield as well, having Digne and Coleman playing as midfielders, essentially, trying to have it control the game. I'm not a big fan of it, really. And I think it showed, later in the game when he made a change that I just don't think 3 at the back suits Everton, really. I think Michael Keane had another average performance. He scored, but I still don't think he was particularly amazing. I think he got caught out by Chris Wood. Burnley probably should have scored there, but it could have been a lot worse. But I just think we need to avoid the 3 at the back formation. Really, I don't think it ever really works.
I agree with you about the 3 at the back. I mean, I'll give my own thoughts on it in a second. When I saw the lineup come out on social media, I was my alarm bells really went off in my head. I thought, oh, I don't like this at all. I mean, I know our hand was forced somewhat. We've got injuries and players who are not available for various reasons, but still, I don't like the 3 at the back, as you said. I mean, I've seen numerous managers try and experiment with it now at Everton. It seems like every manager we've had, apart from Allardyce, over the last 5-6 years, has at some point tried to bring it in and tried to get the players to adapt to it at various points. I mean, I definitely remember seeing it once or twice under Roberto Martinez. I think he played John Stones, Alcaraz, and Jagielka in a 3 at the back on 1 or 2 occasions. I definitely remember seeing it in a cup game. I just can't remember when, and it never really clicked. I remember Ronald Koeman even tried it a few times with Ashley Williams and Jagielka and Ramirez Funes Mori, and it didn't work. Marco Silva tried it as well. Marco Silva memorably, do you remember that game, I think, when we went to Anfield? I think might have been Marco Silva's very last game, actually, where we played Sidibe, I think, as the right wing back, and he was absolutely all over the place, and we took him off after half an hour.
I don't know if that was his last game, but I remember that game.
Yeah, and I remember Marco Silva trying it on a few occasions with Sidibe as a wing back and trying to put Mason Holgate and Jagielka in there, and who else do we have under him? I mean, that season that we had Zuma on loan, I definitely remember seeing Mina and Zuma at one point trying to work out a 3 at the back system. Ancelotti as well. Ancelotti lined us up in that setup as well, and memorably that game last season we had Keane and Holgate just basically gift Tottenham 2 goals. So it just seems like it's this formation that no matter what manager we have and what players we've got in the squad, we just intermittently go back to and try and see if it works, and it never ever does, ever. And I'm now speaking out to another manager, Benitez has tried it now, and again, I just thought it was a massive miscalculation. I mean, hopefully he never tries it again. Hopefully he's seen what he needs to see and he's realised, right, I don't have the personnel to implement that formation. I'm never going to try it again unless I absolutely have to. And I don't necessarily feel like we absolutely had to last night. I just thought it was maybe Benitez overthinking it a little bit, and thankfully he pulled the plug on it just in time to save the performance. So, I mean, do you think we've got any defenders at all who suit a three at the back or five at the back, however you want to describe it?
Yeah, I think we've got 2 out of the 3. I think Godfrey and Mina. So I think Mina was really good as a wide centre back. I think Mina had a pretty good game, to be honest with you, because I think when it comes to his job was to simply just to get the ball and give it to one of the wing backs. I think he did that well. He didn't really lose any of his duels, but I think we expect that from Mina, really, don't we? And I think
Mm,
Godfrey, Godfrey's athletic enough to do it. I just think Keane is the problem in that back 3. I think, I'm not saying I'd prefer Holgate, but I think, for example, if we signed another good centre back, I think this is the closest, in my opinion, the 3 at the back's been to working. Because, before we switched, I think even before we switched into the 4, I think you saw Decore and Allen had a good game in midfield in the 3. I think if we would have had Calvert-Lewin instead of Richarlison up front as well, it'd have been a lot better. Because I
yeah.
think Calvert-Lewin suits, being a bit more isolated. He can win the duels and stuff like that in the air. But yeah, I just don't think. I think that it could work, but not with the current squad. It'd need a signing or two to, really bolster it up. But maybe I could understand him using it with Holgate. I'm not Holgate's biggest fan, but I think he suits the 3 at the back a bit more than Keane. But, I think we should stick to the 4 at the back, because I think until we can really dominate games, that's when you might move to a 3 at the back. I think we've shown that Everton still can't really dominate a game in the first half, especially. Moving to that 4-3-3, even though I think Gomez was, to put it nicely, not very good. Really should have scored. He really should have scored. But I just think until maybe we sign another centre back, or maybe even when someone like Branthwaite's ready, I just think we need to stay away from the 3 at the back unless it's an absolute necessity.
I mean, this basically touches upon what I mentioned at the beginning. It's interesting to hear you say that what your view was on the game, sitting back watching it from afar, like on the TV. My perspective inside the stadium was the 3 at the back wasn't working at all. I mean, I thought it didn't look like it was like close to clicking type of thing. It wasn't sort of the view where you miss. I sort of had this against Southampton, but not last night, where, right, I can see what we're kind of trying to do and it's sort of working. We just, with the final balls letting us down, or there's one player who's having a bad day who's causing the whole system to just break up, or we've just had a bit of bad luck because the referee's letting them get away with murder, which he was. But for me, it just felt like after 5 minutes, even, it just felt like, yeah, this is really not working, this system. We need to change this ASAP. And that, for me, was noticeable even after 5 minutes. I mean, I thought the big issue was Alan and Decore had a good game, both of them, as you mentioned, but I just thought they were getting overrun in midfield. I thought Alan was basically getting left on his own because Decore was trying to do 2 jobs. He was trying to press as well, but he can't press when he's in a 2-man midfield. So he was basically caught in 2 mans a lot of the time. He was trying to sit deep and trying to basically be there for Alan. When Alan won the ball back, he was trying to give him the option of a pass. But there were also times when he was caught further up the field when he was trying to press, and Alan was left on his own. And it basically, because we only had 2 men in the midfield and we would lose at the midfield battle because of that, it just felt like we've got an extra man at the back who doesn't even have to do anything. I mean, I think at one point we were looking at it, even though when Burnley were on top of us, I was thinking, we've got 3 men back there in the box, and every time Burnley come forward, one of the defenders always seems to be miles away from the action. And if he's not going to be anywhere near the action, what's the point of him even being there? Because obviously he's on the other side. I think we lined up with Godfrey as the central defender with Mina and Keane either side of him. And every time Burnley would come forwards, it kind of felt like one of them was left over here, kind of stuck, didn't know what to do. Like almost playing as a fullback type thing.
It's the same problem as when we play in a back 4. The centre backs don't communicate with each other. You know what I mean? It's just, I feel like with certain players there who cut and play a back 3, but I just think if Rafa wants to use it more, he needs to coach them to communicate. Like, I think that's the big problem. Sometimes they'll just be doing their own little thing, or if one thing I did notice, for example, the right side, Coleman and Townsend had a good game. They were constantly communicating with each other.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard it, but you could pick it up on the Sky. You'd hear Coleman constantly shouting Andros, or Townsend saying stuff back. They were constantly in communication with each other, and it's why it works well. I think if we want to play at the three at the back as well, I think we might need a centre back who can go forward a little bit. I think Godfrey can do that. And I also think he has got the speed to get back, just to not massively come forward, not like 30 yards forward,
Just carry
but
the ball out, yeah.
just to offer an outlet to Alan and Decore, or even have Digne or Coleman. Coleman did it a little bit where Coleman took in to try get the ball to release it, but I don't think the personnel is a problem, but I think the biggest problem of the three at the back with us is communication. It's like the people just don't, in a formation like that, you have to be constantly communicating with each other to know what you're doing. It's like the easiest example is, this is the Michael Keane one, where instead of communicating with his centre backs for the McNeil cross, he gets caught ball watching, and Chris Wood almost scores.
Yeah, I think the central defenders, they're all a bit too different as well. Sort of, you've got Godfrey, who's really athletic, very quick, is proactive rather than reactive type thing. Whereas you've got Mina, who's really strong, isn't he? He's not particularly fast at all, but he's great at getting up in the air. He'll win his physical duels. And then there's Michael Keane, he's a big lad himself, but he's not as strong as Mina is. He's not as quick as Godfrey or even Holgate are. But he's probably a bit better on the ball than either one of those two are. He's better on the ball than me, at least. But
Keane should have played through the middle. I think it was Godfrey who played through the middle.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I think Keane should be the one to play through the middle. Definitely, because then if Godfrey's, for example, you put Godfrey on Digne's side, Godfrey can then get forward to help Digne, because sometimes as well, Digne looked like he was all by himself with no help. Because Damari Gray's job is obviously, which he does very well, shown by the goal, is to make those darting runs, and then Richarlison would run with him as well. So I just feel like for the three at the back, if he wants to use it, coach it into the players and then maybe use it in the future. Because if he coaches it into them well, which we know Rafa can, we've seen the improvement in the players, then he might use it again in a few weeks' time and then just go, and then all of a sudden it might look completely different to us because the players might be communicating. But I think until the players are constantly communicating with each other, it's just something we should avoid.
Hopefully so. I've said how I feel about the formation in general. I'm not a fan of it. I just don't remember ever seeing a time where I can put my hand on my heart and say, yeah, that was a brilliant masterstroke play in that setup under any Everton manager, whether it was Silva, Ancelotti, or I know he's only tried it once, Benitez. I don't like it as a formation. I think you've got to have very certain players who have certain strengths in order to successfully pull it off, and I just don't think Everton have got it. So if we try it again in the future, then my heart is going to be in my mouth a little bit. But as you touched upon then, if there is a manager who can coach the players into performing it well, then you'd guess it would have to be Benitez, wouldn't you? But moving on from that, we'll go on to further up the field. Richarlison was playing as the central striker, the number 9. Needs must there a little bit. Calvert-Lewin's obviously got an injury now and he's going to be unavailable for a few weeks. Rondon's only been through the door a couple of days and surely didn't have 90 minutes in him. So what I think looked like as a striker, Richarlison was our only realistic option, really. What's do you think of Richarlison's performance? He did come off, I think, late in the game and he did his typical, stropping, his moody faces, is sitting there on the bench looking really, really frustrated. But what do you think of his performance in general? Do you think he led the line well? Do you think he got left on his own? Did you want more from him? Did you think he did as well as could be expected given the circumstances?
It wasn't good at all. It was. It wasn't. It was bad, but in a sense where it isn't just his fault. He wasn't good, and I don't think he should get let off with the fact that he wasn't good because he's Richarlison. But I also think he was left on an island. And you notice it got much better when Damari Gray started coming up close with him. And then, I just think it's... Because at first we tried to... It was like we were trying to play it short. And then that didn't work. So we just thought, let's start going long again. But then that didn't work because we haven't got Calvert-Lewin. And, Richarlison's good in the air, but...
He can't play much back to goal. No.
Burnley players are much better in the air.
Yeah.
And they're much bigger as well. So, I don't know. I think Richarlison as well was, he he took a beat in that game, to put it nicely.
Yeah, I mean, we can have this debate all night long. I mean, there's certain sections of the fan base who think Richarlison's naturally a striker. Others prefer to see him out wide. I'm personally the latter. I like seeing him out wide personally, even though I do recognise there are games where he is definitely more effective through the centre, but I just didn't think that was a game for it. I mean, again, I understand why we played him there because options were limited, but against Burnley, who are, as you said, big and rough, and they're going to look to really tread on your toes, aren't they? And Richarlison leading the line on his own against them. It was not going to be a game where I thought he's going to be having a 9 or a 10 out of 10. He's going to get bashed about. He's going to get roughed up. And he can't play with his back to goal against physical defenders. It's not his game. He likes to get down and run at them. It's not like Calvert-Lewin, who's happy to get close and to go up in the air for a header every 10, 20 seconds. I mean, he's not particularly bad in the air, as you said. It's just he's not noted for being a target man player, is he? Even though he's not like a weakling or anything. I know he goes down on the floor, but he is a physical player. He will put himself about and make defenders realise that he's there to have a battle. But I did feel sorry for him in the sense that I felt like he was chasing shadows all night. And I do think he put a good shift in. I didn't ever look at him and think, you know what, you should be doing more. You're being lazy. You're not making the right runs, or you look like you're feeling sorry for yourself. I mean, as you said, he did have a quieter night, but it doesn't mean that he didn't stop working. I mean, it's one of those performances where it was disappointing in a sense, but it was more disappointing because I just think the tactical setup was wrong, and it wasn't basically a game that was going to lend itself to him having a good night. So I think we can probably forgive him for it. But what did you think of when he went off? I mean, it's Richarlison, isn't it? He's always like stropping. Is it one of these where, similar to against the Brighton game, you think he needs to sort his attitude right out, or do you think it's just something that fans should not pay any attention to?
I just think he was disappointed with himself. Because personally, I don't know if you noticed this, it's whenever he seems to have a quiet night, it's when he goes off in a bit of a strop.
When he doesn't score, yeah.
Yeah, I think he gets very emotional. You know he does. Look what happened when he almost ended up getting his teeth kicked in by Tarkowski and me when they all kicked off. Thank God for Seamus Coleman. But, you know, it's just, he had to go against me and Tarkowski by himself, the poor lad. And they're both good centre-backs. And Tarkowski showed, you know, he don't care about hurting Richarlison. You know,
Yeah.
he did not care at all. But yeah, I think the problem was obviously, I think the fullbacks I think Coleman did quite well with it. Digne was a bit worse than usual, but I think they struggled with overlapping a little bit because we didn't have the ball as much as we thought we would. So I think if we would have had the ball a bit more, you'd have seen them overlapping a little bit more. And then I think you might have seen Gray supporting Richarlison a bit more, kind of like he did in the second half. But I just think, yeah, for that, until we really got into the game, I just think Richarlison was on an island, basically. And, you know, he didn't stop working. And that's obviously something we've got to applaud him for because he never does stop working. But I don't think there was much he could have done unless he did a miracle like Townsend and was able to crack one from distance.
Yeah, I mean, we'll forgive him for that. I mean, I think last night was a game where he definitely would have suited being out wide, but again, our options for a player through the middle was very limited, and I think Richarlison did better than any other alternative we'd have had. I mean, if we'd have played Damari Gray through the centre, I don't think he'd have done any better.
It'd have been the same game. It'd have been the second half, and Richarlison would have been the one who stood out.
Right, yeah.
It'd have been the same game.
Exactly. I mean, we'll come now to the chances and the goals themselves. Now, in the first half, there weren't any goals, but there was quite a lot of chances, and nearly all of them fell to Burnley. I mean, inside the stadium, the amount of times Burnley basically got the ball into our box and should have done a lot better with it. I mean, I think Chris Wood had a glorious chance that he just didn't make a good connection with, and it went wide. And I know Pickford wasn't called to make any saves, really. I think he made 1 or 2, so it wasn't like Pickford was constantly under siege, but it just felt like we were letting Burnley come onto us far too easily. I mean, the amount of times they got the ball in our final third and were able to basically make a play, whereas they were able to slide someone in, or they were able to cross the box into the 6-yard box, the 6-yard area, or they were able to win a corner. I mean, for me, saying to the guy next to me in the stadium, these could be out of sight here. And this was around the half hour now. They really could. If these had more quality, they'd have put a few goals past us. We're very lucky that, without being overly disrespectful, that it's just Burnley. They are a team that are noted for not having a lot of quality in the final third. They don't put teams to the sword. They just grind and they grind, and usually, and whenever they win games, it's usually just because they've managed to out-hit an opponent and bully it a little bit. It's not because they've just passed it off the park and they've sliced it open. Whereas a lot of other teams would have done that to us when we were having that mess trying to sort ourselves out formation wise. So did you watching the first half especially, were you particularly worried that like a goal's going to come here any minute? Do you think we should have been behind at half time, or do you being watching it on the TV, did you have a different perspective on it?
It was all Burnley, really, wasn't it? I mean, I think the first half was the Decore shot as well,
Yeah, it was.
when
Yeah,
Nick
I think that was
Pope saved it with like
the only real one. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was it. And, don't get me wrong, we probably should have scored there. Good goalkeeping from Nick Pope, really. You can't. But yeah, I just think we gave them too much of the ball. I think we didn't expect them to press as much as they do. And, we should know that, everyone talks about Burnley as this sit back and defend team, but not against us, not against teams that they know they realistically, like, no offense to Wood, well, no offense completely to Everton, actually. Burnley can beat us. Burnley
Yeah,
could
they did it last
definitely
season.
doing the exact same thing to us. Catches on us off guard by the high pressing, and then I don't think. I think Everton, one problem is we looked at that Burnley game and went, oh, they'll sit back, low block, when they didn't. Or they sat back in a low block when we got in their half. As soon as we picked up that ball in our half, when they'd lose it, they'd try to win it straight back. They were on us instantly, and we didn't get away with it. And don't get me wrong, like, I don't think they created any clear-cut chance where, besides the Wood one where I should have went, yeah, they should be scoring that. That should be getting buried. But besides the Wood header, but at the same time for that Wood header, that's a freak cross, really. I'm not saying that McNeil doesn't have that sort of talent, but I don't think anyone in the stadium expected that cross to be that good. Like, it was perfect. And the way it whipped as well, it was a perfect cross. You can't call it anything else. But I also think Burnley didn't have any clear-cut chances, not because of us, but because of Burnley. I do think it's got nothing to do with like good defending or anything. Like I said, I think Mina was good. I think Godfrey was okay, a bit less than what we expect from Godfrey, but it's his first game back. It's his first game of the season. I didn't expect fireworks from him. I just think we underestimated Burnley, and I think that it showed in the second half when we started taking them seriously. We completely took over the game. So I think it's still a bit of naivety on Everton's part and from Rafa's part as well, of thinking that we could absolutely dominate Burnley when we haven't got the team to be dominating anyone except maybe Norwich. And that's not
don't jinx it, mate.
No, I think we can dominate Norwich. If Arsenal can beat Norwich, so can we.
Yeah, I mean, in the stadium, I didn't get the impression that attitude was the problem. I just take it back to the setup. I just thought the formation was so disjointed, and players were just not sure where they were meant to be, who they were meant to be linking up with. I just thought they caught us in a mess, essentially. I mean, as you said, it wasn't like Pickford was making world-class save after world-class save, or we were clearing it off the line or anything like that. It was just waves and waves of pressure, and you won't see Burnley put teams under that much pressure many times a season. I mean, I don't know what the past stats were, but in the first half, they'd have 100% to finish with the better possession stats, and they were in our penalty box a lot more than we were in their penalty box in the first half. And you will not say that many times about Burnley against any team when they're away from home. It was disappointing. I thought it was just further proof that, as I said, after 5 minutes, I was looking at it thinking, Benitez has just got this, as we were all fearing, he's just got this formation really wrong. And I really, really hope that he doesn't drag this out all night, that he changes this quite swift. Because if he does, then there's enough time for us to just get our act together and then end up winning this game handsomely, which thankfully we ended up doing in the end. I mean, going to the second half and where they took the lead, I think it was in the 52nd or the 53rd?
I can tell you right now, I've got it up. In fact, Burnley won it 53rd.
53rd, right. Now, admittedly, I was in the toilets when this goal went in, so I didn't see it live. I have seen it since now. And for me, it was the exact sort of goal we were conceding all the time at home last season, where we just don't clear our lines. I mean, it wasn't like we were ripped. Yeah, it wasn't like we were ripped open by some quality play or one player just did something absolutely outstanding, or any defender just made a dreadful individual mistake. It just felt like the team just didn't react quick enough. I mean, we cleared the ball out. We got the ball out of the area. We didn't clear it. Didn't get ourselves out pressure, but it felt like because we got the ball a couple of 10 yards out off a head, I think we cleared it with a header. It just kind of felt like everyone calmed down and kind of, what's the way I'm looking to describe it? It kind of felt like everyone just. It kind of feel like everyone went out of like red alert mode. I think if that's the right way to say it. I think they were thinking that the danger was gone when it absolutely wasn't gone. It's like, all right, we've won the header, we've got the ball out away from the goal. It's 10 yards outside the area. We can all sort of just relax now, type thing. And Burnley kept the move alive, and that's why when the ball came back in, Ashley Barnes was the one who got to it ahead of the defenders. I mean, Mina went sprawling to the floor. I don't know what happened there. I'm not sure if it was Godfrey or Keane who had was it? Oh, sorry, it was me, wasn't it? Ben Mee, their captain, who scored. Which one of those defenders was it who got beaten by Ben Mee to the ball? Who had him marked?
Oh,
I know it wasn't Mina because I've seen Mina kind of just end up flat on his stomach.
I feel like it might have been Godfrey.
Might have been Godfrey. Yeah, what I was trying to describe it as, it just kind of felt like the players weren't reacting quick enough. It just kind of feels like everyone sort of switched off. That's the way I'm just trying to describe it. Because we won the initial header, I think it was the ball got whipped in off a set piece. Because we cleared the initial danger, everyone just completely switched off, as if as if the moment had gone when it actually hadn't gone. Burnley kept it alive, and I think was it Goodmanson, is that his name? He fired it back in, and then Ben Mee, he couldn't have dreamed for a more quality ball into the area to land on his head. I mean, he won't score.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's a defender who scores regularly. I don't think he is. That was his 200th Premier League game, but he won't score a more perfect goal for a centre-half in his entire career. Just stay in the area, stay alive, wait for a teammate to throw the ball back in the box, and it landed directly on his head, and it was easy for him. And Pickford was left with no chance, and it just summed up basically what a mess we were at the back, and just how everyone, as you said, was not communicating, and everyone was not staying switched on, and no one knew who they were meant to be, who was meant to be marking them, because there's 3 defenders in there, and it seemed like we'd all left them for each other. So, what did you think of the Burnley goal when it went in? Were you thinking, right, we're in trouble now, this is going to go the exact same way as it did last season, we fall behind and we haven't got a clue what to do? Or were you confident that we can still turn this around, there's still time?
Yeah, I mean, I felt, at first exactly how you felt, but then I thought, if there's a change in formation, I think we really could, and we do something similar to what we did against Southampton. I'd seen us do it in person. I was at the Southampton game, so I knew we could do it. I knew all of a sudden this team could hit a switch in the second half, even against Leeds. This team suddenly, I don't know how Everton do it, but they hit this switch in the second half and come out a completely different team. I think, and that's what I think exactly we showed. I think it's us realising that, oh no, we're supposed to take these teams seriously. And then we realised we, dug in after our mistake, and it didn't take us long after that to fire back.
Yeah, I mean, our record after falling behind in a game over the last few years is so appalling. I think,
well,
I don't know what it was.
Twice.
Yeah, I don't know what it is now, but I think prior to Benitez, we'd only come back from behind to win 2 times out of 59. So
I don't think we ever had. I can tell you now because I've got the stat from Twitter saved on my phone. 1 second.
I'm sure I heard that this morning on another podcast. Yeah,
we hadn't come back to win a match since March 2015. Under Benitez, we've already done it twice.
I think we did it a couple of times under Ancelotti, but it was
still we drew. We came back to draw. United, obviously being the massive one.
Yeah. Yeah, there was. If anyone remembers offhand, please put it in the comments. I think we did manage to do it once or twice under Ancelotti. I know we never managed to ever under Marco Silva, ashamedly. It was a big black mark on his record, and I don't think we ever did it under Allardyce, and I don't think we did it under Koeman either. but it was still overall a really, really bad stat when I heard it. I think like over 50, something stupid, like over 50 something games that we'd fallen behind in over the last X amount of many years. We'd only come back to win twice. And I think those two occasions were under Ancelotti. But now Benitez in 2 home games has done it twice himself. So
yeah, I think that's in the league. I think in the league we haven't come back since 2015
yeah,
to win. I know we've drew a few times. I do obviously, and then I'll say it again: the United one being the big game, where because at first I think me included, some of us thought we were going to end up winning that game from being 3-0 down. I think we were, or we 2-0 down.
I think we were 2-0, and then we got it to 2-2, and then it was 3-2, and then we got it to 3-3 with the last kick. Yeah. We did it against Liverpool in the Goodison derby, the first one last season. We were 1-0 down, and then it was 1-1, then it was 2-1, then it was 2-2. But I think under Benitez now, I think the fans have basically got a bit more faith that the team's got more steel in it. So if we fall behind in a game, okay, it's not automatically a write-off. We do have faith that we can still end up winning this game, even if we're well into the second half and the play prior to that hasn't been very good. So we have got some more ideas. I think we have got a manager who knows how to basically turn a game around. I mean, biggest game of his career, the game that he's most famous for, is the Istanbul one when his team was 3-0 down. He is a manager who knows how to right the ship when it's going wrong. He can turn a game on its head just by making a few tactical changes. I think fans realise that now, no matter what they feel about Benitez personally. So it didn't take long for us to equalise. I mean, what minute did Michael Keane
60th, I believe it's
60th, yeah. I mean, it was an absolutely gorgeous cross from Andros Townsend. I mean, his goal, as brilliant as it was, which we'll come to, I don't think we'll see an Everton player hit a better cross all season than the one Townsend did for Michael Keane's equaliser. What did you think of it?
Until Townsend ends up hitting a better one later on. I think it's what we expected, though, didn't we? We all knew he was a really good crosser. And I think he'd shown it a few times for us. Maybe not the corners. The corners weren't good. But the actual crosses were, most of the time, they're good. But this one, it was perfectly placed. It was like he looked at it in advance, went, right, this is for Keane. Perfect. He couldn't have placed it any better. And then obviously Keane did what Keane does when he gets his head to it. Most of the times he manages to actually score. So yeah, and then I think even after that, because, right after that was when Gomez came on. And I think that was when the real, the steel showed in the team, as you said. And there was no chance Burnley were coming back after that.
Yeah, I mean, Gomez was told to warm up by Benitez just before the equaliser went in. I think he was stood on the touchline, like stripped, and he was ready to come on. And then he was brought on. I mean, the goal was the break-in play, and he came back on before we kicked off again. I mean, certain managers, if we would have equalised, would have told them to sit back down. We've had some of them over the years, but I'm glad Benitez basically stuck with the original idea. Just because we pulled it back to 1-1 doesn't mean we have to just automatically carry on doing what we were doing. The game was getting away from us, and we needed a change. And just because we managed to get an equaliser through an absolutely brilliant bit of individual play from Andros Townsend and then Keane with a header doesn't mean that we have to just abandon the sudden tactical switch, which I was really glad to see us carry on with. I mean, you said earlier on you felt Gomez didn't have a good night. I mean, I just agree with that personally. I mean, I know he missed the sitter with that goal. He needs to be burying that, but I thought he came on and made a great deal of positive difference. I mean, he was exactly the sort of player who we needed to come on just to get a grip of the game, because we needed someone to get the ball under the feet, show a bit of poise, get their head up and look for a pass, allow Decore to just focus on pressing instead of having to stay next to our man and feel like he's trying to do 2 jobs at once. I mean, not necessarily that it wasn't like Gomez came on and basically ran the show. I think it was just more we needed a player to come on and do that job that Gomez himself was selected to do. So it wasn't the player himself who was brilliant. It was just the player. It was just the job he was brought on and asked to do. He did it adequately enough. So, yeah. I mean, when he came on and we basically went to 3 central midfielders with 4 at the back again, for me, the game was only ending one way. That's all. Burnley immediately went back to being the Burnley we all thought they were going to be, which was just sitting deep on a low block and offering nothing really at all, going forwards and just trying to ride the luck to get a draw. How I know it was 6 minutes for all 3 of the goals. How many minutes was it between the first and the second? Was it barely 1?
5, and then 1 minute between 2 and the second and the 3rd, because we scored after we scored the second.
I mean, I might as well face it now. if anyone who watches the channel regularly knows, when we sound Townsend, I did a live stream, and I basically spat feathers over it, saying, I don't know why we're doing this. Townsend's a player who's past his best. He's not wanted by a bottom half club. Why are we throwing him a bone? I mean, I'm more than happy to eat humble pie. He's been an excellent addition thus far, and I'm hoping that it carries on over the entire course of the season. So, yeah, fair play to Andros Townsend. He's come in and he's made a brilliant difference, and he scored his typical goal of the season contender. It seems that he has one for every season, no matter who he plays for. He just hits an absolute thunderbolt.
I think this is the goal of the season. Like, it's going to take a absolute world of a goal, because it's not like this was just lucky. This was perfect top corner. And it was the fact how a few minutes later he almost did it again that got me. It was the fact that I think it's the best goal I've seen from an Everton player since Jagielka against Liverpool. You know, people say Baines versus Leicester, but I think this was better. I think this was a lot better than Baines versus Leicester.
I mean, it's right up there. I'll give it that. It's the best goal I've seen at Goodison in a good while.
30, 35 yards out.
About that.
Because the thing is with the Baines one as well, I think there's a bit of a keeper fumble. Obviously, it's world class and it's in Baines' last season, so we all love it. But this goal was, you know, to put it simply, if you showed someone that goal, they'd think Andros Townsend's one of the best wingers in the world.
Oh yeah, if Kevin De Bruyne or Salah or Cristiano Ronaldo hit that, then they're making TV adverts out of it. You know they are.
I mean, I think they should make a Townsend advert out of that. It was that good.
I mean, I don't even think he'll be in the conversation for. I mean, I bet you this now. I don't even think he'll win goal of the month. He should do, but just because he's an Everton player and because he's Andros Townsend
for a goal against Newcastle.
Yeah, because he's Andros Townsend, he's a player who's not an international anymore, and he's not playing for a top 6 club. It's just very easy to just ignore it, isn't it? So it was just absolutely gorgeous. So it's the best goal I've seen at Goodison for years and years and years. Honestly, I mean, when it went in, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I really can't. Like, in a great way. It's like, has that actually just happened? Right. We'll go on to the third goal then, which was the killer goal. Once we got this, then we were practically out of sight, weren't we? Demarai Gray, I mean, it was different from the other two. It wasn't a crazy goal from distance, and it wasn't a brilliant ball into the box that we got someone to get on the end of. This was essentially, it was on the break, wasn't it? I mean, Townsend got a lot of space through the middle. We caught Burnley sort of just in a weird, it just all completely out of shape, essentially. I mean, they had players who were all over the pitch, out of their positions. Townsend and Decore picked the ball up out wide and managed to spot Townsend's run, not Townsend, Demarai Gray's run right through the centre of the pitch with loads of space around him, and his through ball up the field through to him was weighted absolutely perfectly. I mean, Gray couldn't have dreamed of a better pass and better weight on it. I mean, he ran clean through, and his finish I thought was great. I mean, that's the type of finish that you'd see from a world-class number 9. Just calm, composed, hit perfectly. Goalkeeper just had no chance for it. Gray gave him the eyes, got him to commit one way, and then just hit it the other. So what did you think of the third goal, Callum?
I think it was really good. Obviously, it's hard to score a goal as good as that second one, but I think it was really good. I think it was the ball from Decore were fantastic, and because obviously Burnley came off straight off kickoff and basically tried to catch us off guard. We caught them by trying to fly people forward to catch us, and Decore picked it up. And the best part about it was as soon as Decore got the ball, instantly Gray were running, so it made Decore's job even easier. But that through ball is one of the best passes I've seen this season. He couldn't have put it any better for Gray, right to his feet. And like you said, all these people who said when we signed Gray that he had no end product, that's free, and he's past 3 now, so you can't really say someone didn't have end product when he scored in every game except one for the team that he plays for. But yeah, another game, another goal for Andre. I've done that twice now. Demarai Gray.
Yeah, I've done it as well. I've got him mixed up with Townsend. This is a bit naughty, but I'll just throw it in because it did make me laugh. Someone said if that would have been Calvert-Lewin on the end of that pass going clean through against the goalkeeper one-on-one, would you have bet your money that he'd have scored it? They are the chances he tends to miss, aren't they?
Do you know what? No, this time I'd back that he'd have put it away. I don't honestly. don't think he could have missed that. If that pass is as good for it and Calvert-Lewin's on the end of it, what did Gray have, about 15 yards on his next man?
Yeah.
After he started accelerating with the ball. You know what I mean? It's like Calvert-Lewin's quite bad with 1v1s, but I don't really think he doesn't often get many 1v1s where it's no one around him, where it's just plenty of space. I think he would have finished it, but weirdly, I trusted Gray more than I would have trusted Calvert-Lewin in that situation.
Yeah, it was a proper finisher's finish, wasn't it? The type of finish that you'd have seen Lukaku just bury in his sleep, wouldn't you? It was the type of goals that we don't typically score anymore since Lukaku was sold, just one-on-ones where it's just the striker against the goalkeeper and he's just got to basically win that personal battle. He's got to give him the eyes. He's got to get the goalkeeper to commit, to go down either way, and then he can just stroke the ball down in the opposite direction, and that's what Gray did perfectly, and it was the killer goal. I mean, there was 6 minutes between all three, but the minute you go 2-up against Burnley, no matter what time of the game it is, it's essentially, it's got to be game over 99 times out of 100, hasn't it? And I mean, fair play to Burnley. I mean, after that, it wasn't like they just completely went into the shell and were just desperate to get the game over with. They did have a second goal ruled out somewhat controversially. I mean, it was down at the Gladys Street end and I was sat right behind it. And at the time, I thought that Pickford was fouled because he went up, he came out to collect the ball and he was basically overpowered and stopped from jumping to gather it. And admittedly, everyone behind the goal immediately appealed, saying that's a foul on the goalkeeper. There's no way that should stand. And it ended up being disallowed, but it was taken away for an offsides rather than a foul. And I've seen it back since. And I do think now, I think Pickford got lucky there. It wasn't necessarily a foul. I mean, I've seen them given 100%, but I think they're the type of instances where people are always complaining, saying, why is it the goalkeeper who always gets the benefits that's out there? How come you can't touch the goalkeeper without it, or the referee automatically blowing up? So as relieved as I was that the goal got taken off them, because I think after they didn't get that, then I think Burnley basically just knew that it was not going to happen for them that night. Any chance they had of getting back into the game disappeared with that. But I do think now that I've seen it properly, we're quite fortunate with that. What did you think? Did you think it was a foul? Did you think it was just lazy defending? It was bad goalkeeping? What was your take on Burnley's second goal that got ruled out?
I don't know. I do think I agree with you that the keeper does get a lot of benefit of the doubt, but I also think the way Burnley were doing it, you know what I mean? If you look to earlier corners, I don't know, it might have been Ashley Barnes in one of them, has literally it looked like he had his arms wrapped around Pickford. It wasn't for the goal, but I do think it's Burnley's own fault, because I think the players can get a bit rough sometimes with anyone around them, James Tarkowski. But I do think it was a foul. I don't know the offside one. It did look offside too. If I remember the replay, it looked like two of them might have been offside actually. Because I just think it was poor communication from Burnley. Like, for example, the guy who was offside, if he'd have took 3 steps back, I still think he scores that goal, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I just think they just didn't anticipate the ball well enough. I think Burnley, I think the foul on the keeper can go either way. I think it can. I think both sets of fans can make an argument for it.
Oh yeah, if that's Alisson at Anfield or De Gea at Old Trafford, then of course it gets blown up as a foul. I mean, it was. I don't know why we're complaining over it, because we did get the rub of the green. It did go our way. It was disallowed, but it wasn't disallowed for the reason that everyone thought it was going to get disallowed in the stadium. We all thought that's a blatant foul. There's no way that can stand, and it turned out it was disallowed. The VAR check was for an offside. It wasn't for a foul at all.
Yeah, but I think when you see the VAR check, it's definitely offside. But I think obviously when you're in the stadium, it looks a lot different, and everyone looks a lot closer than they actually do on the TV.
Yeah, it was a lot more nervy for us all, rather than it probably was for the fans watching on TV. Yeah.
I think people were complaining. It's just because, this sums up how bad Martin Atkinson was. It might be the worst refereeing performance of the season for any game. It might be the worst, because it's not just stuff towards Everton. Even stuff towards Burnley, it's just, he wasn't, it's not like he was just being biased towards Atkinson. Always is bad towards us.
He just hasn't got a clue. Yeah.
He just couldn't seem to get anything right. The Townsend yellow card's the worst one for me. The Townsend, not even the Tarkowski one, it's the Townsend yellow card. How Townsend gets ran through, and then he pulls on someone's shirt and gets he missed a clear Burnley penalty. He missed it where Decore is trying to suplex one at Burnley players in box like that. And I'm like, listen, I'm glad he missed it, and I'm glad he's a crap referee in that instance. But how do you miss that when you've got VAR to help you as well?
He's dreadful. He's absolutely dreadful. He's possibly the worst of the bunch, honestly, Martin Atkinson.
He's the worst referee in Europe.
I mean, I remember 10 years ago now, him sending Jack Rodwell off in a Merseyside derby for something farcical.
I just don't think he likes any team outside the top or the big six.
10 years later, he's still refereeing games, and he's still making an absolute bollocks of the decisions, and he's ruining fixtures because he's that incompetent and he's that terrible. It's a reflection on how bad the refereeing is in this country. I mean, I don't want to harp on about it too much because this is meant to be a positive video. We have won, we should be upbeat, but he's so bad, Martin Atkinson, and I can't believe that he's still going after all these years. It's not like he used to be good and he's gone bad in the last few years, or he was one of those referees who never really courted controversy. For as long as I can remember that he's been in the league, he's been the most controversial referee, the referee who's most consistently in the headlines for being terrible.
Yeah, well, I think this is what I was saying to my brother when we were talking about it. I don't know why the Premier League don't just get a rating system of the referees where they can look after the game and they know if the referee's made a mistake. They don't have to come out and say anything. Mark it down. If they've made as many mistakes as Atkinson does in a season, sack him. He's not Mike Dean. He's got no personality. No one cares.
I mean, I know why they won't sack him. It's because the numbers they've got in the system, it's so low, isn't it? That basically referees are staying on for longer because they've got no one to replace them with. They're offering them more money.
My thing is, surely they could get in touch with the Championship or the EFL and be like, you lot have got some decent referees. The referee who did the Championship playoff final, the Australian lad.
Yeah.
Call him up. I understand they have to learn to work with VAR, but if they've got a pair of eyes, they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see more younger referees brought in and given a chance. And if they're no good, if they're no good, then they're no good. But at least it's getting rid of the old lot who've been here for years, and we know that they are consistently terrible. Do you know what I mean? You're never going to stumble upon a good referee unless you give a new referee a chance, are you? But
yeah, because we don't expect referees to be perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. I can understand if he's a good referee and he makes a mistake every now and again. Even if it's to Everton, I have to sit back and go, well, he's consistently good. I can't. This instance, I can complain, but it don't make him bad at his job. Martin Atkinson is bad at his job.
I think the thing that sums up his night completely is I saw this on social media after the game, and I've seen the instance on video. This was Townsend's booking. When Townsend asked him, what am I getting a yellow card for? I think Martin Atkinson said to him, it's persistent fouling. You've had 1, 2, 3, 4 fouls, right? And I think
right. Huh?
Yeah, and I think the stat is after the game, there was only 4 fouls in the entire game, I think.
Townsend.
Or what was it?
Fouls conceded. Are you ready?
Yeah.
1, and he got a yellow card for it.
Yeah. Martin Atkinson said to Townsend that the reason I'm giving you a yellow card is persistent fouling. You've done it 4 times now, is what I read, and Everton only committed 3 fouls in the entire game.
I can tell you that.
So he's blaming Andros Townsend for all 3 fouls that the team committed over the course of the 90 minutes, and one of Burnley's as well. That just sums up his night. He hasn't got a clue. Honestly, it's not like he's just underqualified and he's been thrown in at the deep end, and it's like, right, well, you shouldn't really blame him. You should blame the people who put him in that position. No, he's been at it now for 10 years. He's been consistently terrible for 10 years.
Also, like, how has he not been sacked yet? Listen, I understand low numbers, right? But I refuse to believe that the Championship wouldn't go, yeah, of course you can take a referee for a fixture. Or, you know what I mean? Or offer them the job. If you offer that, I don't know if he manages does England a lot, if he's actually any good. But the Australian referee from the Championship playoff final, it was this season's one, I think, where Brentford won, or it might have even been last season's, was really good. He wouldn't take anything from the players. He was getting all his decisions right without the help of VAR. And in the end, he had a good performance. But then we've got clowns like Martin Atkinson who can't tell his arse from his elbow. Just like
guessing, yeah.
He is guessing. Like the Tarkovsky one, it's not he wins the ball. Struick did the exact same thing to Harvey Elliott.
It's
If
got
they're
to be better.
physically fit, because I don't understand why we've got all these old men as referees. We should have someone. They don't have to be as fit as a Premier League footballer, but at least fit enough to jog around the pitch so they can, be in better eye line of what happens. As long as they're making right decisions, I do not care. It's just, and one day it's going to cost someone a league title. It's going to cost someone a league title, and it won't surprise me if it happens this season.
Well, it's already cost teams, spaces in the Premier League, hasn't it? Like, there's been teams that have been relegated, and one of the main reasons for it is because they've dropped points in a crucial game because of a referee. Yeah,
Bournemouth should still be in the Premier League because Villa should have went down in the game against Sheffield. Listen, this isn't me being salty because look at all the players Villa have got. I've watched Villa this season. I'm not worried about them, but you know what I mean. It's just this. It's incompetence, and that there's so many examples. There's so many examples of obviously this is a positive video, and we're all happy about the win. We're happy Martin Atkinson is clearly blind and didn't notice the clear penalty for Burnley, but it's a matter of timing, and we know it'll be us. We know this will be the season where we somehow manage to be fifth. We can go fourth on the last day of the season, right? Picture this all in your mind. We can go fourth.
I can't. That's what's tragic about it.
Who do we play on the last day of the season? I don't know. Here we go. Calvert-Lewin's through, scores. Martin Atkinson, you're offside, mate, when he was clearly onside. And meltdown.
He was the referee, from what I remember, in the league semi-final against Man City, where we were, I think, 3-1 up, and we just had to avoid getting beat like 3 goals, and he let a goal stand when Raheem Sterling blatantly ran the ball out of play. So he's been terrible for years.
It's not even like we're not just saying he hates Everton. He's just crap.
He's incredibly incompetent. And that's the reason refereeing numbers are so low, because referees like him are being allowed to reach the top and take charge of these important top flight games. And they're that bad that they reflect so badly on the profession that it makes people think, I'm not doing that, because that fella's basically made that job something that no one in their right mind would want to do.
Well, it's not even that. It's they then think that fans are going to be extremely volatile towards them and blame them for everything, which, yeah, obviously you've got to be thick-skinned if you're a referee. But, no, we only ever go at the referee so much because the quality is so bad. I'm sorry, right? But, for example, if I'm a referee and someone calls me a stupid insert, whatever swear word you like the most here, I would not care. You're paying to watch the game. I'm getting to watch it for free on the pitch. I wouldn't care. I just don't understand. It's just incompetence. That's the nicest way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, there's other words you can use as well, but I don't want to get us in trouble. Incompetence is the nicest word. And if that's the nicest word you can use to describe someone, then that must make you aware, give you an idea of just how bad the refereeing was. But let's move on from that. We're near the end. We'll wrap this up now. So it was a 3-1 victory for Everton. It takes us into the top 4. It means 10 points out of the first 4 games. It's a very good start. I mean, it's still early doors. There'll be a lot tougher challenges to come. The next game for us is on Saturday, so it's 4 days now because we're recording this on a Tuesday evening. So it's a quick turnaround. It's going to be Aston Villa away. We're going to do a preview video shortly, but do you have any final thoughts on this victory? I mean, anything you want to leave us with? It was a 3-1. It wasn't pretty, but we got the points and we got the performance that we ultimately needed. I mean, I think the last 30 minutes probably should overshadow the first 60 because we were absolutely outstanding once we changed it up tactically. So I don't think it's anything to be overly critical about. Just we saw the formation, the 5 at the back, the 3 at the back, whatever. It didn't work. Benitez corrected it on time. Fair play to him. There's some managers who would have left it a lot later when it was too late to change it around. But is there just any closing thoughts you've got on the game?
Yeah, I think it's a good moment, isn't it? It's another comeback from behind to win at Goodison. It's another win at Goodison. It's good to see, especially after the poor form last season. And I think going into Villa, obviously I'll touch on this more and I'll give more details when we're recording that video, is just, I don't think we can afford to play like that first bit. Danny Ings, Ollie Watkins, Leon Bailey, as I've said, the second best English / Jamaican winger signed from Leverkusen this summer. But yeah, and Buendia can play. No, he can't, can he? the Argentinians can't play. It's the Brazilians that got allowed to play, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the Brazilians
So
who've
I think they'll
been
still be
allowed.
without Martinez and Buendia, or they might just be back.
I'm not sure, but whether they are or they're not, we can't be having a fair 60 minutes
Danny
type performance.
Ings will kill us if we play like how we did in that first half.
Yeah, we can't have Michael Keane, Mina, and whoever the third centre-back is, Godfrey or Holgate, all at 6s and 7s looking at each other, not knowing what they're meant to be doing. We can't have Coleman and Dean as the wing-backs kind of just on the periphery of the game, which I thought they were for long periods. We can't have Richarlison leading the line on his own, basically chasing shadows all night because he hasn't got anyone close to him and playing in a manner that doesn't suit him. Like we're just trying to get crosses in when he's not a player who when he plays a striker, he's not a striker who's going to look to be getting on the end of crosses. He needs the ball into his feet. So we'll leave that there for the Burnley extra time segment. 3-1 win. Wasn't pretty, but it was ultimately a good night for the Blues. I mean, positives, I think, personally, should outweigh the negatives. We got some players, we got everything we wanted out of it. We got an absolute screamer of a goal that we'll remember for years and years. We got an informed player carry on his inform by making it 3-3. And we got a good old-fashioned goal that every Evertonian loves to see. Cross from the wide, big tall player gets his head on it, back of the net. Everyone's up and singing. So it just feels like every box was kind of ticked for us last night. So get in, brilliant. The Raffolution, shall we say? It might be a bit of a cringe term, but basically the good times are still rolling in under Rafa Benitez. We're still grinding out points. We're still showing character. We're still showing that we're a team that's progressed from last season and is getting better at the things we didn't used to be necessarily very good at. So up the Blues. Let's hope we can make another win next week, and we'll go on to the Aston Villa segment next.